I am the host, JonTre, with my co-host, Veronica, Coney, Ty E. Cole, with special guest, BruthaMikeX, and coming in later, another guest, Isha MAAT. And what's today's topic?
Are you/us willing to kill the nigger in us/we/us? That's a serious topic, right?
Yeah. I peeped the video out, but first, let me address just the last week debacle. I kind of got out of character last week for myself. I had to pull down. This is just for the audience because we did have some listeners quick when I put that thing up. We had to take that down because we wasn't satisfied as a collective of what was presented, and we didn't want that to go out like that. I kind of got out of character and got into my feelings or whatnot, and we took it down. We agreed to take it down, so we bring in a recap. So everybody is very got to study what we were studying last week, and I read the contract, and I just want to address that real quick, and we could get into the topic because we had a good topic. It's just a lot of us, well, me, was unprepared because I didn't have the information, which I should have, but that was on me as the host. And the contract that I read it, Veronica, and like I said, it's solid. It's a couple things missing in it, and intriguing things that I seen in it. I applaud them for including the Native Americans in it and making sure they get theirs too. So by looking at that, it's just showing the compassion that we have as a people, that we always look out for, others, even when we're trying to gain something for our plight, and we still include others. And pretty solid from the educational standpoint of him hitting the points of how 50% of the doctors come from Black schools, like the Black colleges and stuff like that, and how money should be put into the Black colleges. I like the part of the prison system of how prisoners should make minimum wage and not the cents that they make. I kind of peeped out all of that, and how people should be freed if they're in lockdown for years for marijuana, since marijuana is going to the positive side of things. Just a whole lot that I looked into it. And like I said, there's some stuff missing, but pretty much it's solid. It's solid. It's solid.
Yeah, I want to just say this real quick, and I kind of me, BruthaMikeX, and Ty had a conversation, and I love the Black contract. I think it's excellent. I love the efforts. However, and I gotta say this, I don't know, I ain't trying to make something that is not, but like we were saying earlier, like the only missing piece was I didn't ask nobody what they needed, especially the people that coming from, I guess, the grassroots, like Mike X said, the grassroots organization. And it's a beautiful way somebody put it. They said, if I came to your house and I wrote out a plan for your life, right? And I did not include you in it, how would you feel about that? How would you feel about that, John? If somebody came to your house, wrote out a whole plan for your life, didn't ask you anything about your input, how would you feel about that?
I mean, I think that's how, that's why I don't deal with politics, because I feel like that's how politics is run, period. We're never included. We're never at the table, when things get discussed about us. Like, this is not the first time this has been attempted. You had Danny Glover and a couple of grassroots people try to put together a plan for getting reparations, and they took that to the United Nations. So you can look that up on Google. Danny Glover and a couple of elders went to the United Nations to put a plea in for Black America to get reparations, and it didn't work because I feel like the same thing you guys are saying, we weren't included. People are going and make moves without even including us, the Black Americans. you know, and it's like, what are you discussing for real, and how is that going to be dispersed? How do we know that we even going to be included in? Like, even with the black contract, I was telling Isha, like, it's certain things I don't agree with, you know, like having to ask a relative that the only way you can receive the benefits is basically if you pinpoint that you come from descendants of slaves, right? And I'm like, well, it's 2020. Who actually do we have in our generationals that could, you know what I'm saying, give us that information, you know, on some solidarity type stuff? And it's some loopholes in it, you know, like if he come back and sit down with the right people, like more grassroots people, or maybe just the people in general, where a meeting can happen. You know, we can meet and say, go vote. If everybody can scream, go vote, why we can't take a step back and say, let's meet up and let's add some things and take out some things in that contract? Why we couldn't do that? So, yeah.
Well, like I said, it's a beautiful, the thought is beautiful. The efforts was even better.
Oh, yeah, I applaud that.
Hey, ask the people how they feel about that, you know.
Like, I think his intentions wasn't bad, but like the brother Mike X said, you know, just we're not included. Does it include us? You know?
Yeah. Well, you know, I am not somebody that Veronica quoted, you know, that raised that issue. You know, we all were blessed with free will by our Creator. You know, that free will connotes authority. Like, we have the authority to decide what types of lives we want to live, you know, whether those lives are lived in the darkness of ignorance and pessimism and negativity, or whether those lives are lived in consciousness, awareness, knowledge of self. You know, it would be wrong for someone, you know, to come and draw up a whole plan for your life and not consult you and strive to help you to inject your thoughts, you know, on what that plan is about for your life, you know, and subvert your authority over your own life and strive to make you commit to a plan that they made for you, you know. And if they found you not conscious or aware enough to where you can speak forthrightly for yourself, then they should strive to educate you, you know, so that you can begin to speak for yourself and have some legitimate input. You know, it shouldn't be where someone comes and, you know, strives to, you know, take total control over your life. And then if you don't commit yourself or submit yourself to that plan, then you get ridiculed or you get shamed or you get judged, you know, for not submitting to that plan, you know. So the major problem that I had, you know, with the contract, you know, for America, it reminds me of W.E.B. Du Bois's Talented 10th plan that he had, you know, when he said that the talented 10th, the educated university brothers should be the ones who speak up for the race. And, you know, that plan backfired, you know, by a large degree, because a lot of the so-called educated brothers, instead of them committing themselves to bring their education back into the communities from whence they came, a lot of them, you know, kept going up and their class interests changed. And, you know, then it wasn't about us, it was about them going for themselves, you know. So I don't want to condemn the effort, you know, but our college and universities, a lot of them don't connect with the grassroots inner city communities, you know, and that's a problem. It's an issue that we need to talk about, you know. And Black people we need to find ways to legitimately challenge and support Black people learning, you know, their history, learning what their interests are socially, politically, and economically, so that they can take part in their own healing and their own regeneration and redemption, you know. So, you know, like I said, you know, one of the things that I saw, like, for instance, I remember the Million Man March. The Million Man March wasn't just a shout out given, you know, by the leadership. Like, yo, and October 16th for next year, we're gonna all meet up. You know, I'll see you there. You know, and then that was it. Like, nah,
Right,
it was a
right.
nationwide tour of meetings and rallies in every major city where we lived, you know, and people were called out to come and participate in, you know, the rallies, you know, so that we can talk about why we needed a Million Man March. There was a lot that went into the successful planning for and having of that march. I'm just using that as an example, you know, so you got to get people involved, you know, and
Right.
you know, you got to find a way to prick the consciousness, to prick the dignity of Black people, so Black people will begin to, you know, want to come out and participate in their own, you know, change, their own growth and transformation. So that's a major point. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
I wanted to ask you, because I seen that you was at the Million Man March, right? That experience, what was that like? Like the first one, you know?
Yeah.
And I got a second question. The one where we celebrated the anniversary, the or else. Do you feel that we're at that point at what is or else?
Well, I would say first and foremost that a lot of people make a lot out of the civil rights movement, or the second civil rights movement that some people reference in the 50s, in the 60s, in the early 70s, you know, starting with the murder of Emmett Till, which, you know, horrified the Black nation and really sparked a movement where Black people was like, enough is enough. You know, we want our rights. We want to be, you know, treated as human beings. And you know, Martin Luther King and the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, Rosa Parks and Ella Baker and Malcolm and so many people who participated largely in Black people getting the right to vote, getting the Civil Rights Act, and, you know, so that we can, you know, enjoy the same rights of public accommodations that everybody else takes for granted. You know, the 90s was like an echo, I believe, from what I remember of the civil rights movement of the 50s and the 60s. And I feel like a big part of it was ushered in through hip hop, you know, through the politicization of hip hop. You know, the Black consciousness of hip hop woke my generation up. And I would say, like, from the late 80s to like the early 2000s, you know, I really saw where it started to peter out around the early 2000s. You know, you had the Million Man March in 95, you had the Million Woman March in 1997, you had the Million Youth Marches here in New York City and Harlem with Dr. Khalid Muhammad in 98, 99, and 2000. And I was able to participate in all of those. The Million Man March was a sight to behold. But, you know, to be honest with you, one of the things that sticks in my mind, for some odd reason, even more powerful than the Million Man March, and it's estimated that close to 2 million men came to Washington, D.C. And everybody, it was peaceful. It wasn't no arguing. It was all like a spirit of love. But in New York City, Minister Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam had an organizing rally for the Million Man March to get to pique people's interest and drum up the energy in New York City. And that happened, I believe, in December of 94 or January of 95. I'm trying to remember which one, but it was held in New York City at the what is known as the 369th Street Armory. And there was 10,000 men in the building. And it was, you know, about 5,000 people who couldn't get in. And for some reason, you can't compare 10,000, at least you shouldn't be able to compare 10,000 to 1 million plus. But for me, for some odd reason, the 10,000 men being in the midst of the 369th Street Armory amidst 10,000 men, it just, I had never experienced anything like that ever in my life, you know? And I wish that we would begin to focus on, instead of begging white people and others, you know, to give credence to our lives mattering, I wish that we would begin to focus again on, you know, showing and proving to ourselves and each other that our lives matter. You know, our lives matter not to beg and plead for someone to give us a job or give us a chance, but if we focused on, you know, fighting to make sure that our lives mattered as individuals, you know, striving for righteousness, striving for peace, striving for prosperity, you know, striving for empowerment so that we can be the men that we need to be, so we can be the women that we need to be, you know, for ourselves as individuals and for our families and for our communities. I would love to see that type of movement that's locally based in the neighborhoods themselves, you know, begin to take root and begin to like stir up that energy like I saw back in the 1990s, you know, with the formation, the organizer for the Million Man March, the Million Man March itself, you know, going to Washington, D.C., the Million Man March shutting up every critic that was out there. There was nothing that they can say about that phenomenal staging of a peaceful rally and protest that the Million Man March was. There was nothing that they can say, you know, until they was given an opportunity to say, you know, things after the march, you know, but the march shut everybody up, you know. And then the second question you had, I went back, they had a Million Family March in 2005. I went to that. And then they had the Million, Justice or Else, the 20th anniversary,
right.
in 2015. And I took my son, we went to that. I think that these marches are supposed to, you know, they're supposed to it's like a pep rally, you know? The pep rally is supposed to get you excited for the game. The pep rally isn't supposed to be the end all be all, you know, in and of itself. Your pep rally is supposed to get you all amped up so that you can come to the game and show out for your team. And I think that unfortunately, sometimes people think, you know, they act as if the pep rally or the march is the end all be all. No, the pep rally, the march is supposed to be so that you go back into your neighborhoods and you begin to act better. You begin to have a more serious way that you live your life as an individual. You commit yourself to being, you know, a positive contributor in your community. And the march itself can't be the end all be all of, you know, it can't just be about the march. It has to be about what you do after the march. So those are the only letdowns I've seen sometimes in some of the marches that I've participated in. Sometimes the organizers of the march, you know, their big name, their charisma, you know, kind of overshadows sometimes how important it is that the individuals who participate in the march, how important it is for them to see themselves as a vital contributor. You know, I think sometimes the message doesn't carry over to the individual who participates, believing that they are a vital contributor to the success of whatever the movement is focused on. So, you know, those are my comments on, you know, the Million Man March and the Million, you know, the Justice or Else. You know, I think the Justice or Else was kind of like a letdown to some degree. A lot of people was afraid of what does this or else mean, and you know, I'm trying to remember, you know, the or else I think meant that it was kind of reactionary. You know, I think the or else kind of, you know, it was sparked on by the mass killings of Black men by the police. And it was an emotional charge, you know. So that's what I remember about the or else, you know. You know, it was like, you know, if we don't get justice, then we're gonna stop looking for justice from you, and we're gonna begin to take justice into our own hands. Was kind of, you know, what was implied, you know, by the or else, you know.
Okay. I only asked that because, you know, I was 15, 14 at the time. I just remember, like, to me, the first Million Man March is always it's history for me because I actually took out of school. I treated it like it was Christmas, a holiday, you know.
Yeah.
Took out of school. My mama allowed me to, you know, because at that time, like, I followed the minister in a lot of things. I followed Dr. Khalid Muhammad, you know, I followed him, you know, and I was really deep in it as a youth, you know, even though I was raised in a Christian church, like that was the brothers that I gravitated to early on in life, you know, and I just always wanted to know what that feeling was like. Ta'i, is glad to have you back, man. What you got to say, man? I want to hear you.
Good to be back, man. You know, I'm just
What you
checking
think
in.
about Ice Cube situation, man?
Well, like I said, first and foremost, it's great to be back, you know.
Right.
We sincerely miss you guys. But I was just listening to you guys share your perspectives, and I'm in agreement, really, especially in regards to the non-inclusion on proposal on the contract, creation of the contract. You know, I applaud the efforts of Ice Cube and those professors, you know, to really spark and open up dialogue about, you know, reconstructing a lot of things. But you said you've seen a few things that could have been mentioned. I myself see it basically as there are a lot of things that need to come into context that need to be spoken about. Ice Cube, him just basically scraping the surface. And even, I'm going to say this, you know, and even, that's just who I am. I'm going to say it. Even with the concept of giving the, allotting to the Native Americans.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They're just due funds or land, due land. I mean, that whole concept, right? That right there is a whole another conversation in itself. I mean, like, definitively, who are the Native Americans?
Like, that's what I wanted to get at. Like, why we even?
I'm gonna get it because it needs to be gotten at. You know what I mean?
Right.
Who are the Native Americans? Are the Native Americans those, you know, people of a lighter persuasion, complexion? Are they truly the natives of this land? Or are we the natives of this land? Those people classifying themselves as Black, African American, or whatever entitlements. So
I just feel why are we including that though? You know, that's not a plight. And I just feel like me driving across the country, they got a lot.
I mean, yeah, they do have a lot, but I mean, I said that to say it's time to start really unmasking a lot of untruths. You know what I'm saying? Half truths, whole lies. What my elders define them as. It's a lot of stuff that needs to be spoken about. I am, in my personal opinion, like I said, I applaud the efforts, but I think just cutting out a patch of the rug won't solve the problem. I think we need to rip the whole goddamn rug up, okay, and relay a whole new, you know what I'm saying? Just do the entire room, do the whole house, put the whole, you know, carpet the whole house. Don't just cut out a certain patch and feel like that's gonna, you know, solve the problem, solve our social issues. You know, it's top of the whole goddamn situation, the system. You know what I mean? Complete revolution, complete paradigm shift. This has to be torn down from the root. I think they basically approaching, scratching the surface. If you really want to, you know, put people in a position to feel and know that they are treated equally as man and woman, no matter what demographic you come from, nationality, you know what I mean, or religion, whatever, you know, to give people that autonomy, that free will that Mike spoke about, you know what I mean, to express yourself, to love and lead the life you love, whatever your choice is, whether it's operating or demonstrating through your higher self or your lower self. That's your free will, that's your option, you know. But at the same time, again, I think we as Black people or whatever you subscribe to, Moors, Africans, whatever you subscribe to, we as the darker complected people of this planet, we tend to care too much about the benefits or the well-being of others. I think we need to focus on ourselves. And I get it, they use, you know, commentary about the Jews and the Indians as a way to strengthen their arguments. I get it, you know, but to me, it's not my concern about groups of individuals who have no concern about me and my people's life. You know, my concern is for Black people specifically. I'm not, they use language, right? They say, you know, for Black people and poor people alike. When they use these other words, these other phrases like poor people, minorities, you know what I mean? That includes other groups. That allow other groups to benefit on the efforts that we put into obtaining certain liberties for ourselves as a people. You know what I mean? As Black people, we allow them to pretty much water down our efforts. So I'm not with the including other people. I'm just saying, that's just me. That's my sentiment. I'm not concerned about white people, Asian people. I'm not concerned about the, you know, the well-being of other people, because those people have not shown any concern, you know, about what's really happening to you and I as Black men, Black women, Black children. What's happening to our communities, how they come into our communities and rob our communities. You know what I mean?
Facts. I'm with you.
You know, they take the best of everything that comes from the hood and utilize it for their own, you know, best for their benefit and their future, their posterity. So again, I'm more so concerned with being just focusing on us as a group, not so, you know, being so inclusive, regarding the needs of other people. I don't care about including the needs of other people. That's just my take on it. I stand on it.
Right. I'm with you, sis. Veronica. Yeah, I'm with you, man. So we that's why I held off my signature. I didn't sign nothing. You know, they asked you if you agree to this contract. You know, I held back my signature because
why not have some type of dialogue, some type of national platforms? If they got to go city to city, you know, get the dialogue of the people, have some type of, you know, town hall meeting for Black people or
That's
whatever.
my point.
Right.
Most definitely.
Get a consensus, get a national consensus of what the people want. You know, you can't just, you know, design some type of, create some peg and expect for me to jump in and fit in it. I'm not very good at that, first and foremost.
That's my point. I mean, because either you was gonna, you know, in best case scenario, you should have started off with a nationwide, you know, tour, going from city to city, to engage, you know, Black people. I mean, most people don't even notice, you know, people got mad at Bill Cosby, you know, the 50th anniversary of, what was that case, you know, that said separate but equal education, you know,
Brown
Yeah.
Brown
Bill
versus
Bill Cosby had addressed a panel, a celebration for the 50th anniversary of Brown versus Education. And Bill Cosby really went in taking Black America to task, for niggerish behavior that we, have fallen to. And a lot of people got mad at Bill Cosby for doing that. And this is part of why when Bill Cosby, was being attacked, by the other side, trying to call him a rapist and what have you, a lot of Black America still being mad at him for taking Black America to task about the niggerish behavior that we have adopted, and we now visit upon each other, with the parasitical behaviors, the hate, the criminal tendencies that a lot of us have adopted, and we
all the
use upon each
stereotypes. Right.
A lot of people got mad at Bill Cosby about that. And a lot of people don't know that Bill Cosby went on a national tour after he made that speech. I think it was the NAACP, had, put together a gathering to commemorate, the victory, seen as Brown versus Education. And Bill Cosby on his own dime, he went into a lot of the inner city neighborhoods and he began to challenge Black people, like, you have to let go of some of the criminal tendencies that you have begun to adopt and use to destroy yourself and destroy other people like you. Even he had tried to do like a grassroots movement thing. There's a great book called The Head Negro in Charge Syndrome by this person named Norman Kelly. I got to dig this book up. And it talks about the whole phenomenon of Bill Cosby challenging, Black America to raise its standards. And it exposed a lot of the same people who are attacking Ice Cube, for his contract with Black America. There are Black gatekeepers amongst us, Black people who they have a seat at the table based upon the dysfunction and the chaos and the division within Black America itself, particularly in the Black inner city neighborhoods. And I would say that those Black gatekeepers probably are 9 times out of 10, Democrats, what I mean, themselves, who they're not necessarily striving to get at the root of the dysfunction in Black America. They just want to be able to, create poverty programs and things of that nature. Give them a basketball to play with.
They can continue to benefit off the problems.
Yeah, we're not going to teach them their real history. We're not going to strive to implement, to teach them how to go for themselves and have certificates and trainings and learnings so that they can learn how to put themselves to use and open up their own businesses and things like that. The way other communities ain't trying to give you no basketball. We're gonna they just need something to do. Give them a basketball. Give them a football program. Like, nah, people need to know how to employ themselves, and they need to know how to make a legal living. If you give people an opportunity to do that for themselves, they're not going to pick a basketball over picking, learning how to make an honest buck for themselves, So anyway, these are some of the things that Ice Cube and the whole team that he's with. And he got Claude Anderson, he got a lot of heavy hitters, but the average rank and file Black people who live in the inner city neighborhoods don't know Claude Anderson. They don't know nothing about powernomics. They don't know nothing about, some of the issues that was included in the contract for Black America. So you got to educate. Either you educate them at the front of the effort, and if you don't educate them at the front of the effort, then you're going to have a heck of a hard problem later on when you go towards trying to implement, the things that is talked about in the contract for Black America. You're not going to be able to implement the things without the participation of the community that you're supposedly speaking for, So, those are some of the points that I think that we need to be knowledgeable about, and learn from this experience,
Yeah, man, free the brother Bill Cosby, man. Like I continuously say that, it was an agenda, I'ma always say that. They so this week you mentioning that, they tried to put up this new mugshot of him, to put him in our mind, but I guess to get a reaction or just to see how Black America, I feel like, to see how we still feel about him, like, and it's sad. Looking at that picture just made me sad, man, just because of what you talk about. Because I know his history, I know his background.
Yeah,
I know what he did for Black, let's say, actors and entertainers, is how he cleaned up and tried to change the image of how we were looked at. Even though he did the Uptown Saturday nights and all of that, Bill Cosby really was, like you say, trying to just raise the bar for our people on how we were projected in the perception of us. And I remember the people getting mad at him for saying what he said, and it was never wrong what he said, because everybody said, like, Black boys, pick your pants up, pull your pants up. Just the things that he was just pinpointing, just the little things to present yourself well with pride. Pride ain't just an action. It's how you are perceived amongst other people, not just among your people. Yes, you want to be perceived as greatness amongst your people, but when you're approaching by other people, you don't want to be slouching and sagging and, just so aggressive, He was just basically putting it out there like your father would tell you, your grandfather would tell you. And I feel like everybody, that crab in the barrel mentality of our people, or let's say what the subject is today, the niggerish thoughts and mentality of our people, and the bitch mindset of our people, go straight to attacking. It's never a listen. It's never to sit down. We never can take ridicule from our own. We can never be told what not to do from our own. We can never hold each other accountable, because it's like, who the F is you? You know what I'm saying? And the reason why I say F, because I'm gonna try to change how I speak just off your video. I get it.
Stop it!
I get it. Nah, because like I'm not perfect. I'm still have a mentality of myself, because I'm a warrior. And it comes out like that because of the people I'm amongst. I don't talk like that on a regular, but like I said, when I get comfortable, it flies out. It flies out. Just that hip hop in me and all of that background that I have in me, it flies out sometimes. But just because we're having this conversation, I'm gonna try to hold my tongue a little bit. I ain't gonna speak for Isha. You know how Isha is, but that's her, and I love her spirit, and it's only compassion, and that's how when she's able to flow, it just comes out like that, but yeah, man, like, it's sad. Like, when I listen to your video, we're gonna jump into that subject, listen to your video, and I see that too, just how it's sad when you see the mothers, the mothers in front of their kids talk that way. I could take it a little bit from the men, because I know that's just where we at. But when you start seeing the mothers having regular conversations that way with each other, to where they adopted a word that they wouldn't want a Black man to call them, you know what I'm saying? That they would actually call each other that. And the whole nigger word, I see what Kendrick tried to do. He tried to educate the word of where that word originally comes from. But I feel like the motive and how you use that word on a majority basis is not on a righteous standpoint, as far as what Kendrick was talking about. It's on basically on that nigga wave, on some street shit. And see, there you go. See it come out, just on that street mentality though. But, and I get it. Like, and that's sad to see that she responded to her daughter like that, to be to react to her like she's somebody just from the street and not her seed. You know, and she is programming her to talk a certain way. I done failed and slipped up that way before, you know, because of my mentality that I'm coming out of, you know, and I have to catch myself and explain to my kids, you know, like, you know, I ain't right, I ain't perfect, don't be like me, don't speak like me. You know, I try to enforce them to learn educational stuff, to be able to protect the way they want to talk. But there's a right way to talk. You have to have pride for yourself. And I feel like the way we're perceived is just as that. They're going to pick the negative parts of us and try to put that in the forefront and never the righteous parts of it.
You know,
So,
a lot of us are not aware of the fact that a lot of the behaviors that we display, and we take so much pride in, you know, exemplifying behaviors and language, the use of language we choose to, you know, demonstrate. A lot of those languages and behaviors are created. You have certain institutions set up that are specifically set up to create behaviors, ways of speaking, ways of dressing, ways of, you know, body languages, so to speak. And they place these sort of creations amongst us as a people, having us feeling as if this is our normal way of interacting with each other, right? This is our normal way of expressing ourselves. It took me back to a book written by Dr. Neely Fuller, United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept.
Yeah.
And he spoke about how we suffer from a microcosm of racism and white supremacy is something that they call, he termed show-offism, right? And let me just read a little of this to you guys, how he broke down show-offism. He said there are 4 basic show-offisms by or among the victims of racism. Whether you feel like you're, you know, you're susceptible, open and receptive to racism, or you're on the combating end of racism. You're someone who stands up against injustice, right? He says showing off to each other the things. Number 1, show-offism is showing off to each other, in parentheses, the things that white people have allowed them to obtain. 2, showing off to each other the information that white people have allowed them to obtain. 3, showing off to each other their ability to belittle each other. 4, showing off to each other their ability to make sexual impressions on each other. And I think that's real strong. And his explanation is that many non-white people spend much time, energy, and money showing off to each other. They do this as a means of trying to make the overall effects of racism and white supremacy on their personal affairs seem unimportant and or non-existent. You know what I mean? And with those women, I was listening and checking out Mike's video. It's real sad, but it's safe to say that we do, you know, we glorify the worst in ourselves, right? We glorify the worst of each other. You know, it's sad that we find pleasure or find some sense of security in the belittlement of each other. You know, we can look at it. I see people look at or say negative, have negative connotations toward people who address each other as king, queen, hey queen. You know what I mean? But it's more acceptable to be a bitch, a nigga. You feel what I'm saying? That's cool. You know, that's what's happening. You know, that's the end thing, to belittle each other instead of uplifting each other. You know, there's a lot of things we do. He also stated on page 49, he said something about the 10 basic stops, 10 basic things we need to stop doing as victims of racism and white supremacy. He said, first of all, stop snitching, stop name calling. He has descriptions for all these. I don't want to read, you know, in depthly. He says stop cursing, what you just said, John.
Yeah.
Stop cursing, stop gossiping, stop being discourteous, stop stealing, stop robbing, stop fighting, stop killing, and stop squabbling among yourselves and asking racist white supremacists to settle it.
To be the referee, to be the police in your community.
Again, like you said, we're always looking for acceptance outside of ourselves.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. He also said, sis, if I could just, throw in there, just to include, when he said, he always says, if you don't understand if you don't understand white supremacy, everything else will confuse you.
That's right.
Mm.
That's right.
The system of white supremacy, racism, white skin privilege has created a converse repercussion of Black inferiority and dependency on our part, and also victimization, or the taking on of our own victimization. So it's not, it's not the fact that Black manhood has been destroyed and taken out of the equation for the Black woman to be able to depend upon her Black man, her Black husband, to help her to raise a strong Black family. It's never about what they did. It's always about, you are no good, good for nothing, two-timing snake of a man, you're a poor excuse for a man. Like, we take on our own victimization, and we have to be able to get out from under the weight, the ungodly weight of suffering under that victimization. The Black woman blaming the Black man for not being able to live up to what white America portrays as a man, a protector and provider. But he's done all that he can to stop Black man from ever being a protector and provider. So if a Black man is only to be judged from the standpoint of protector and provider, and he's not able to live up to that under this system, and doesn't know, why he's not able to live up to that, then he's gonna, not gonna be welcome in the family or the community, And so the black manhood has been under attack, and Black women have been left to hold the bag of striving to struggle, to keep the family together. And we're blaming, and while we're blaming each other,
Mike, I think it goes back to, just again, always looking for acceptance outside of ourselves, right? With this acceptance and this glorification of our suffering. Why is Black pain so popular? Black pain and suffering so popular. Hollywood and everybody has a part in that, plays a part in that, right?
That's right.
And it goes back to creating the narrative of ourselves for ourselves, creating better images of ourselves, creating better storylines, better, visuals, so that we can start to uplift each other,
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say this.
What's up, Isha?
Hey, Isha, how you doing? So y'all,
Isha.
Peace.
Hey, what's good?
So we gonna catch you up, Isha. We talking about, and which brings us right into the topic. That was beautiful, Tai. Talking about Dr. Nelly. No, it's Nelly Fully Jr. He wasn't a doctor. But anyway, just what he was saying, all what we don't and what we should not do, right? Goes into the topic of tonight. Are we willing to kill that nigga inside of us, right? Not inside of our brother, of our sister, but inside of us. Wow. You know what I'm saying? Like, how are we willing to do that work on ourselves? If we understand, like, the magnitude of calling each other these oh my God, y'all help me with the
derogatory
names. Yeah, these derogatory noise, or saying these condescending things to each other. Are we willing to do that work to stop that and kill that nigga on the inside of us? And I'm using the word nigga, y'all. Somebody help me with the definition. Because all niggas is not like, a skin color or anything, or a race thing. It's just I'm calling it like as a mentality or a certain form of ignorance, right?
It's a mentality and it's a practice. You know, there's behaviors that come with that mentality. And I think it's really the behaviors is what's mainly self-destructive. If it was just a word without behaviors, you know, that are attached to it, then we might be having a different discussion. But it's the behaviors, it's the anti-self and anti-us behaviors that are really self-destructive when you begin to talk about people collectively who use that word, you know.
Right.
There's a lack of dignity, there's a lack of purpose, you know, a lack of dignity, there's a lack of purpose a lot of times that's connected to, you know, that mindset. You know, there's a lack of value for ourselves, and there's a lack of value for other people who look like us a lot of times when you talk about these words, nigga and bitch, you know. And the behaviors that are associated, the practices that are associated with the word is really what's destroying us from the inside out, you know. And this is why we would want to strive to adopt a better way of of speaking to one another, whether you say brother and sister, whether you say king or queen or God or goddess or God or earth or whatever, you know. It should be something that really calls the individual to a higher purpose, you know, the way that they live and the way they regard themselves, you know, and then they'll be able to regard you in a better way if they can first regard themselves in a better way. You know, wanting for your brother.
With the word nigger, right? It comes from the land of Niger. You know, we have allowed them to condition us to give these words, which they got it from where they got us from. You know, the tribe of Niger. And I feel like we give it too much power. We gave them so much power because of the conditions that we're in, basically. The way I think it's already in us to use these words because that's who we are. Not the definition as far as the mentality, right, that we see today. But it hasn't left us for some reason because we have an attachment to that name.
Nigger?
Not nigger. Niger. Nigger.
Niger.
Niger.
Okay.
I mean, you look up the definition of that word because I had to get corrected. Because growing up, I had seen the word nigga in a book. I don't know which dictionary. Me and her had a debate about this a long time ago. I thought it meant ignorant, right? But if you look in the dictionary today, you know, it's blatantly basically telling you the origin of the word. So my thing is because we're conditioned already as it's in the language, you know. It's like how we say Donald Trump would get up there and have a coded language, right? To me, I feel like it's our language, but the mentality of the language and, like he says, the attitude and the actions of this language is not as positive to where, because that's not how they're using it on an everyday basis. It's not used from them having knowledge of self. The way they use the word today is in a language of endearment, but they're using it from getting the word from a negative aspect of us, which is the terminology nigger, of what white people back in the day used to call us, or today call us to degrade us. But in the end and in the beginning, the word is already been with us, where it's not going to leave us. You see what I'm saying? And the word is so powerful, right? The way we perceive the word and the power we gave that word, as far as on the negative end, I'm just speaking on the negative aspect of it. But we could educate our people on the origin of the word.
Facts, the etymology.
Maybe we could just change the outlook of the word, because it's not going to leave us. You know, you're going to constantly hear it. And my only beef with the word is the negative aspect of the word, of how we use it. Because now you have other cultures using this word and they don't even know the origin of that word. They only know the origin. They only know the negative side of the word of what we were given, how we got it. You see what I'm saying?
So that it
context of saying that being a nigga, being who exactly what Caucasian or racist white supremacists expect us to be,
Right.
ignorant, uneducated, unedified, you know, just all the things you can think of an individual that has the capacity, that doesn't have the capacity to grow. I think that's the context Veronica was using the word.
That's
nigger at.
exactly the context.
No, yeah. I'm using it there too. That's what I mean by the negative aspect.
From, you know,
right.
Their true ability to be, you know, to exemplify who they truly can be. You know, with that being said, it's like when she said, you know, you killed the nigga in you and I killed the nigga in me, right?
Right.
You know, it's the same thing that Isha speaks about and on occasions in regards to, it's like that spiritual journey, man. You got to go inside yourself. I got to go inside myself and do the work. The greatest war fought is the one within. You know what I mean? So it's like we all got to go inside and sacrifice that ego.
I feel like
ego. You know what I mean?
I always can see different perspectives, but usually what I have to speak to is on an energetic level. So if we are speaking to, first of all, a baby language, a bastardized language, a language that has been created for us to curse ourselves on a daily basis, where we say fuck, shit, damn, hell, bitch, nigga. We say those are curse words, but we don't even see how we really like curse ourselves. Oh, you killing me. Oh, like, oh, I'm dead when you see something funny or that type of stuff. So they have tricked. I always tell my daughter, like, English is a devilish language. Every person that learns English, they always say this is one of the hardest fucking languages to fucking learn. It's tricky. So they have tricked us into putting energy into the word nigga and into the word bitch, when if we we gotta throw this whole language away and just learn a whole nother language, because this whole language has been cursing us from jump. That's what it was made for. So when I'm talking about putting energy into a word, so the way I look at the word bitch, right? A female dog. Who was the ancient female dog? An ancient dog, Anubis. Anubis is the bitch. It can be feminine energy to be used. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, why are we giving energy to things? If we are saying that we're gonna look in ourselves, why can't we be alchemists? And that's what niggas is doing. They changed but they didn't really change it. They just took it the fuck back. Because if I called you a puta or pendejo, if you don't know Spanish, you not gonna feel offended because you don't even know what the hell I just said. So we were conditioned to feel a certain type of way about words that actually don't have nothing to do with being derogatory. Somebody told us that this shit is derogatory. Somebody used these words derogatorily to us. But if I don't take it like that, how the fuck is that my mentality? And how can you tell me what my mentality is just because I use the word bitch or nigga? I could tear you down with words and not ever use a cuss word. I cuss a lot, though. I know, because I don't put stock, I don't put energy into curse words, because to me, I say foul language because those are not curses. You got to look at the etymology of certain words, especially in this fucked up ass language that we fucking speak. And so my energy, if we talking about And I love how Brother Mike say, deconstruct to reconstruct. If we are deconstructing to reconstruct for the way that works for us, how can we then say, I'm putting energy and that much stock into words that you got to define for yourself? Somebody else has defined that word for you, and now you feel a certain type of way about it when it's not even that. And that's all I'm saying. I get what everybody's saying, but and that's the reason why I wanted to do the journey, our journey, right? Because I feel like all of us was like black sheeps, kind of. So we all did our own thing. You know, we never really we was always kind of against the grain, and we never followed, suit, motherfuckers looking at us like we got 10 heads, motherfuckers calling us weird and shit, all type of things. But we all follow something that was innately in us. And you could really become discouraged if you keep looking at the seeming conditions. Why can't we put the energy and the hope in that I did this shit? I'm still on my journey, but didn't nobody help me? I had religified mindsets around me. I broke out of that. I respect all religion because it do help some people, but I've graduated. I don't need that. So if I found that, why do I feel like this shit is hopeless? I can't feel like that because I rose out of the fucking ashes. Now, if I can help somebody by leading by example, I'm doing that all day because I got a level of care, but I don't give a fuck. I care, but I don't give a fuck. That's my favorite thing to fucking say because I have human compassion. But what I'm not doing is focusing on shit that motherfuckers got to do for themselves, just like I did. That's my hope. And if they don't, how much worse are we talking? And I'm not Jesus. I don't save motherfuckers. Motherfuckers got to save themselves.
That's
Back to my point, the greatest war fought is the one within. You got to go to war.
Oh man.
That.
I was in Brooklyn. I was in Brooklyn this evening, to see my son. And, the Black communities have been totally gentrified and taken over. Not just by white people, but so-called Arabs, Palestinians, Chinese, everybody and anybody, has been able to step into the vacuum of us not knowing ourselves, and to set up shops, set up businesses, and it's very hurtful, it's very humiliating, to be in a position where in order for you to get your food, get your clothing, and get your shelter, you have to pay someone who owns your neighborhood where you live and you grew up, And so I walked into, a local, we call it bodegas, in New York, a little supermarket,
the corner store,
the mini mart corner store. And tonight, the Arabs or Palestinians, whatever you want to call them, this night they chose to train up either their sons or their nephews or some teenagers was behind the counter. And so they're using us, to practice, show and prove, group economics or the economics and how you make money. And they're behind the counter. And they were playing some form of hip hop, today's hip hop. It wasn't no Rakim Allah, no Public Enemy, or no KRS-One, or no Brand Nubians, or whatever. It was some form of, I don't know who the artists were, but it was nigga this, nigga that, nigga the other thing, and they was like, yo, turn it up. And they, they're performing a caricature of how we have been displayed to the world. Basically, from my opinion, debasing ourselves and participating in our own, our own portrayal of our self-defeat and our own denigration of ourselves and other people who look like us. And they're behind the counter, like bouncing to this whole, nigga rap. And I was like, I'm just in the store. I'm like, yo. Now, mind you, I've worked with young people my whole adulthood. I've worked with young people in the juvenile child welfare organizations. I presently work in a juvenile jail. I just did a shift, last night where there's teenage Black and brown boys who have been tricked into being murderers of themselves and murderers of others who look like them and who are facing 10, 20, 30 years, in prison, at the ages of 15, 16, 17, 18, who for them, this nigga rap is everything to them, but they're living and dying by the nigga rap. This Arab dude is just a form of entertainment for him. It's not life and death for him. It's entertainment for him. And it's a way of him dominating the local economy of where Black people live. You know what I mean? And I have a problem with that. I got an issue with that. I understand what, a lot of people on the line, what Isha's saying, we are supposed to be alchemists. But that comes when you have a knowledge of yourself. That comes, that comes from when you know how to take the best part of any particular philosophy, any particular ideology, and you take the best part and you leave what's not usable, behind, and you're able to mix and match what's best in this philosophy and what's best in that ideology and create something brand new, take the lower forms of a particular substance, drain away the negative, and create, purity. But see,
transmute it.
That comes with a consciousness, and our people don't have that consciousness. If I knew about negus or negus, if our people knew about, never ignorant, getting goals accomplished and all of that, but our people don't even use, that's a cop-out. Our people, collectively don't use nigga as a term of endearment. Collectively, our people nigga collectively as a term of debasing themselves and tearing down each other. And whether they was tricked into doing it or not, the result is still the same. We're actually killing ourselves and killing each other and not allowing ourselves to get to that point of spiritual enlightenment and living. And we have to, at some point, we got to begin to stop glorifying our own self-defeat, our own self-destruction. When we was ignorant, that's one thing. But when you come into enlightenment, you got to throw off that thing, and that impeded you, and maybe contributed to the loss of so many lives.
But are we not doing that?
No.
Why do you think that more often than not?
I'm gonna say that
we're not doing that collectively.
No.
Yeah, we're not.
Why do you think more often than not it's not being done? If you know your road, your journey at one point in time, you was just like the people that you're talking about, and it took a level of, inner knowing and doing the inner work. Why don't you think that other people actually are doing that more than what they are actually showing you on television? There are communities of beautiful Black conscious people thriving. It's a whole lot of people. It's a whole lot of tribes. It's motherfucking act. Can't no white man step foot. They gonna kill that you dead. White people can't come in here. So more often than not, I feel like, because maybe I just choose to see it like that because I look at my evolution, that it's actually happening, but we're focused on the few and not the many. And if like we all live in different places, and we have come together for the greater good. We did that. Nobody made us, because if we're talking about you have to raise somebody else's consciousness, what makes you any different than the Crusaders who went around killing motherfuckers? The thought, not that you physically kill, who went around killing motherfuckers because they did not conform. They didn't choose a religion. It doesn't make us no different. The thought processes, not even the act of killing, but the thought process for us to think that it's up to us to make somebody or save somebody, when we can only save ourselves, and in us saving ourselves, it's going to radiate outwardly. And those who choose, because this is free will, who choose not to do it, that cannot be, because we trying to say everybody. There's gonna be
so we the 5%ers, man. So knowing that we the 5%ers, that number 5%ers needs to raise up more than just being 5, basically. How I know it's not working, because you have young brothers, like just the other day, you see when I told you, brother kills somebody, kills a dude and a girl in front of their kid. Like, the compassion is gone. I see the compassion is gone. Yeah, we could say within each other, it's not enough of us being displayed amongst our people, you know what I'm saying, to be able to project that change within ourselves, to be the illuminists, to be able to show people how to change. You see what I'm saying?
And
I just don't feel like that's the truth.
I'm quite sure everybody on this platform at some point gets like that.
What's
someone in your life to stimulate you and bring you to the light. You feel me?
What I see in my own neighborhood.
But outside of your neighborhood, if you've never seen Black people thriving, then your reality is your perception, and that could be fine. But unless you change your environment to see motherfuckers thriving and not killing each other, then that is going to be your reality. I'm just saying that is not. That's not.
So the hate you gave
is not to try to do your best, wake everybody up. The thing is this: we all on this platform at some point we were in the dark at some point in our life, and it took somebody to impact your life positively to put you on the road to consciousness, right?
Okay.
So we owe it to others to be able to light their wicks from our fire, so to speak.
Challenge their thought process.
Not imposingly, because you can't impose your will on anyone. And any student or adept knows that you cannot impose your will or your way of life on people. But you can shine your light. You know what I'm saying? Shine your light and allow individuals to know that there is a better way. You know what I'm saying?
That's just like the brother BruthaMikeX said. He works in the juvenile, right? I'm sure he done talked to the young brothers in there, right? And they be looking for something different, but like we saying, like, this mentality, right, has become the norm in our community. Which I come from. I come from the same community. It's the norm. You know what I'm saying?
I think that's the nigga Veronica was talking about.
Yeah, that's the norm. That is the norm. They're comfortable.
Talking about that's destroying, our image. That's destroying our communities. Yeah. That's destroying our families. That's destroying
individuals. We deal with daily, y'all. That one.
Because that's your reality. And if we don't broaden our horizons and we can only look at what's happening around us, then that could be very discouraging. But I guarantee you, right, if you went off the grid and you stopped looking at social media and you went and built a city, you wouldn't even know what the fuck was happening, because you was building your city with people who thought like you. So your perception becomes your reality. but your reality can become distorted when your mind is, and not to say any of y'all have a closed mind, but when you're on this spiritual road, you got to know that this shit is so motherfucking personal, and we can make it our plight to save motherfuckers. I don't got no problem with reaching back when I fucking get up there, but I'm not about to do that for motherfuckers who don't want to. You come to me.
That's the thing.
I'm not about
You
to.
don't have
This
to.
shit is not.
You
Our
just
conditions can look fucked up, but everybody individually got to want to change their conditions. And the ones that say they want to change their conditions and you could reach to them, they come into the community center to Brother Mike. They come into you on the corner. I got young motherfuckers like they fuck with me. You know what I'm saying? Because I bring a different perspective to their life that they don't hear people talking about. I don't feel hopeless because I see these young people really getting it. And my only hope is within myself. And I see where I came from. Crazy, wretched.
What about the millions that do feel hopeless, Ish? You know what I mean?
It's personal.
Some people literally are out here thinking there are no other options.
Have you ever felt like that?
From a physical standpoint, they don't think there are any options. They think, you know,
I get it.
What they have, and there's no other, no other way of thinking, no other way of being.
Understood. Yes, absolutely.
Subservient to who, society has decided that I have to be. You know what I mean? A lot of people out here are in the frame of mind that there's no other way to be. There's a better way of life. You know what I'm saying? Striving for that mastery that you just talked about. You know what I'm saying? That getting to the level of knowing the understanding of how, it's best for your transition and evolution to start delving in alchemy, become an alchemist. You know what I'm saying? But like Mike said, it's for those, it's like the old adage, signs and symbols are for the conscious mind, right? Those who know better tend to be in a position to do better. So a lot of our brothers and sisters that don't know that nigga mentality, is not conducive to our growth. You know what I'm saying? As individuals, as groups, as families, as communities, as a nation, it's not productive. It's it's very, it's counterproductive. It tears us down.
Spirituality.
I don't think everybody adopts that mentality.
Spirituality, when you're dealing with spirituality is about this, growth and transformation through the seeking and practice of higher truths. It's about refinement, personal refinement. It's about moving on from your former self or your lower self so that you can vibrate and live on higher levels and lead by example. I'm not talking about no hopelessness. I don't live my life based upon hopelessness, but due to the fact that I do have a knowledge of myself, I do have a knowledge of our history, I do have a knowledge of the tactics of those who don't want to see us, being able to save ourselves and rise up in the fullness of our consciousness so that we can begin to compete, for control of this planet. I can't help but to be sensitive to the plight of my people, the plight of my little brothers and sisters who don't have this knowledge. I can't help but be sensitive to some of our people glorifying and talking about the crack era and talking about, how some amongst us, was able to rise up as wannabe drug kingpins, and had cars and jewelry and all of these types of things for a stretch of a year, 2 years, maybe 3 years if they were lucky, and had to pay for that with their lives sometimes, whether their lives ended prematurely or whether their lives ended because they were locked up for 25, 30, 45 years. You know what I mean? So and then and not being horrified, not being horrified in knowing that that was a Holocaust, that destroyed, the last vestiges of the Black village in our communities. But instead of being horrified, instead of being like, yo, man, we survived that, we can never let that happen again, talking about the glory days, the good old days. You remember when we was, rocking the Fendi, and you remember this, remember that? Yo, we shouldn't be glorifying, the destruction of our Black families, the Black village. That's not something that we should be glorifying. We should be, striving to never let that happen again. We should be striving to learn how to rebuild, rebuild our communities as elders in our community, and, providing our young people with an opportunity to live in the light of love, in the light of truth, in the light of peace, instead of them destroying themselves, by busting their guns at each other. Don't even know how to shoot.
Facts.
Don't even know how to shoot. And this is why, stray bullets are, you hitting everybody but the target that you were shooting at. You don't even know how to shoot. You don't even value your life or value the life of someone else enough for you to not go to pick up a gun. These are some of the things that we have to address. And honestly, part of me, feels the way you feel. Being someone who's been active in my community, that spent an inordinate amount of time putting myself last because I was striving to put our people first, and knowing that the best thing that I can do for our people is to live a life of love, of truth, to exemplify that there's an alternative. So part of me feels you when you talk about moving on and not allowing people who haven't shown any inclination to want to be awakened, and to want to abide by principles and standards. Part of me understands that, and I am striving to move on, but there's certain things that you can't just drop and move on from, you know what I mean? So, and it's about personal refinement. I'm gonna say this, and then I'm gonna let somebody else chime in. Brother John was mentioning the 5%. In the 5% talk about we're not pro-Black or anti-white. We're pro-righteousness and anti-devilishment. That's a part of a particular code that we hold ourselves to. That speaks to killing off the nigger in ourselves. The nigger is a brainwashed mentality and practice that we've been corrupted to and we've adopted, and we're destroying ourselves because of it. In order to save ourselves, we have to kill off the nigger and the nigger tendencies that a lot of us have picked up on and are holding on to. Pro-righteousness, purging ourselves of that corruption, of that self-hatred, of that degradation, to me, is spiritual, and it's about salvation, And if we commit ourselves to it, I believe that we can be the best role models, to our people, and particularly our children coming up. And I believe that that's the only way we can save ourselves, to come out of conformity with, how we used to live. I used to consider myself a nigger. I used to use that word liberally until I was awakened to know and believe that I was practicing a form of self-destruction, a form of self-degradation. And when I became knowledgeable of that, I was called to living a higher standard, of purpose. I call my brother literally brother, sister. Yo, what's up, sis? These is words that I use liberally. I find that these words are more positive. I find that these words are more valuable than for me to call my brother or try to say, yo, this is a term of endearment. Yo, what up, my nigga? What up, my bitch? You know what I mean? It's to me, again, no matter what these words used to mean, I think that it's more powerful what they mean now. Right. And what they mean now is not something good for us. and for those that we care about. So let me shut up. I don't want to have diarrhea with the mouth. I know other people.
So here's an example. Here's an example of nigga mentality. So when I was locked up, they wake us up every morning, you know, early for roll call, and you stand in line, and you'll have the brothers come out, and you'll have one of them, a couple of them, just talking about what they used to be when they was out on the outside. And the mentality of their mindset wasn't to be free. You see what I'm saying? Their mentality was already content to where the conditions of what they are. Like, I'm ready to go up the road. You will hear a lot of them say, I'm ready to go up the road. I'm ready to go up the road. They ready to go to prison, right? I had to have my mentality while I'm in there amongst that. I could have easily gravitated to that same mentality because I'm not knowledge of self right now. I'm in that nigga mentality when I'm in there. You know what I'm saying? But the point was, like, something within me was saying I'm not about to take on that plight of saying I'm going up the road. My everyday conversation is I'm going home. Feel me? I'm going home. I'm going home. Like, I'm just listening to the brothers' conversation. I'm ready to go up the road. None of them had a thought process of saying I'm going home or being able to speak that into existence. It was just already conformed and content to the normalcy of getting prepared to go up the road. I'm ready to go up the road. I'm ready to go up the road. But if they had like any trickling of knowledge of self and the power of the law of attraction and the power of the tongue of being able to speak things within, and it exists. Like, even with me, I didn't even know the power of that until I actually went home and came home. You see what I'm saying? And that goes to the form of spirituality that Isha talks about, that's already placed within. But these brothers are so detached from themselves because they're so used to the normalcy of trying to impress the next and the next and the next, because that person right there doing this, I'ma do it. Like, to get along, like this voting thing. Everybody doing it to get along to go along, or go along to get along. Everybody just doing it because that's the thing to do, because everybody doing it. But when you can take time to yourself and actually see what yourself is telling you and be able to get to know yourself, most of these brothers don't even have the time of the day to hear themselves think because they're too busy trying to get along to go along. Their mentality is already content into the conditions that they already have. They don't know no other conditions. Some people haven't even got on a plane. You know, living in Charlotte, it's a lot of people that haven't rode a plane that are grown or just haven't experienced different things for them to see differently. So they're already conditioned to have the same mindset that they're already conditioned in, whether it's a nigga mentality or a bitch mentality or just the mentality of what they're in. And that's the circumstances of their surroundings. And I get it when you say within yourself, be that light. You know, you can be, but what I'm saying is it's not enough of us around. Yes, there's communities, but we're spread out. We're spread out. You have brothers that's don't even have a knowledge of self, but just they have a heart of compassion for their people just to want to do something. You see what I'm saying? They want to do something to change. What you say?
Words create, save, and destroy people. Words create, save, and destroy. We have to start speaking life into each other. We got to start speaking, greatness and encouragement and love, man. It's the order of the day. That's what's going to save us. All this reckless behavior, that's basically what the nigga mentality is. This reckless behavior, And speaking on piggybacking on what Mike was saying about these individuals, these foreign individuals that come into our communities, and what I call out niggering us. They out nigger us. No more rap music and rap lyrics and nigga this, nigga that, more than we do. They out nigger us so well, they trick us into thinking that they are our friends. No, they're not. They there to rob you in your community of everything that's good about it. The resources. You know what I mean?
I understand. And this I want to add this on too. even speaking to that situation when we got people coming into our community taking over and they use our old form of behavior back to us so they can have an ultimate takeover. I strongly feel when we talk about let's kill the nigga mentality in us, it's just shedding off and purging ourselves from that old nigga mentality, that old nigga this or girl please, just things like that we say amongst each other that's really doing more harm than good. And at the same time, you guys, not only that, but we're teaching when we practice these things, little do we know we teaching the next generation how to treat each other. Okay. Our babies are watching. And I'm not saying I'm not acting like I'm holier than thou, like I'm like it like cursing, like totally offends me. It's cool, but at the same time, I strongly feel like that sometimes does a grave disservice to some of us who is offended by that, and to our children. Our children should be replacing words and expressions on other things. And I'm not saying anything against it, but it's just sometimes we have to really, really respect each other. So you know what I'm saying? Respect each other in certain ways. And also just create a culture that's conducive for our growth. Now we got to grow. We got to grow. We got to take a stand for what we believe in. And
Yeah, especially when you get into business, we speak on ownership. You think you could be able to do great business and have a mentality like that and be able to expand your business when you could, if you can't change your language sometimes, like that's how I look at it. Like
right, Veronica?
yeah, you basically you got to have business, you know what I'm saying? A business aspect mind. So we like the young boys they ain't going to school. Like right now we have a pandemic. So like in Charlotte, all I see is them like they ain't going to school. So what they got to do? They're living a grown person's life, but in a teenage body. So they're ripping and running. They getting into shit. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna use that word right now, but they getting into shit. They basically playing with guns, like Brother Mike X said. I see it all the time. I say this all the time. Like, y'all brothers got beef, but when you go out and handle your beef, not saying I'm promoting this, y'all don't know how to shoot. You shooting innocent people. Like, you're not even knowing how to shoot. Y'all playing with weapons, ain't even responsible enough to know how to go to a range to protect yourself and learn how to shoot, to not waste your bullets. Why we say don't waste? Y'all got these semi-automatics and you wasting bullets. Not only you wasting bullets that leave shells, you running. So when you run, guess what? You leave evidence. Like, it's just stuff that if you use your brain and take a time to just use your conscience, you might won't go that route because you're not even, how to say, trained enough. You know what I'm saying, for gunplay and warplay. Like, it's just, that's what it is with me, because I'm not judging them because I was once there. But once you look back, and it's basically for my growth to look back at the stuff that we do and the stuff I was doing, like, man, I ain't supposed to be here right now. I'm supposed to be locked up, serving 10 or 15 or something like that, because I didn't know how to shoot. We just shooting up a random house, and you don't even know who you hit when you doing a drive-by hit in the house. Like, the story is about a baby getting killed. That baby probably was sitting in her crib or whatnot. Everybody else ducking down, but the baby just, he don't know no better. He a baby. He don't know what's hitting the house. It's just situations like that makes me uncomfortable as a man first. I could, and it's like you want to help, because our people is just falling down by the wayside, regardless if it's a nigga mentality or not. It's not growth as a people, as a tribe. I could be good within myself, but if I can't go amongst my people and have somebody that's like a group of us right here, right now, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's me and Isha. I know it's plenty of us, but what are we doing with this alone, this light that we have? What are we doing? Are we out there amongst the what we call the nigga mentality and trying to show that light, or how we could be amongst each other and be peaceful and have a party? And you know what I'm saying? It's just, that's the part I'm at with it.
We imagine. Go ahead, BruthaMikeX. Go ahead.
I just want to say, and it's not about holier than thou. It's not about, you know, puffing yourself up and trying to portray, you know, like you're perfect or whatever, like you came down from heaven. You know, it is, you know, the practice of righteousness is remembering, you know, that what you've been through, where you've been at, you know, the person that you used to be when you used to connect with the lower practices of death and destruction, you know, mental death, spiritual death, emotional death, you know, and also physical death. You know, the practice of righteousness is spiritual, you know, and it is taking ownership of the fact that your life is indeed special, and it has potential for greatness, you know, and you're exercising that not just for yourself, but you're exercising that to shine light into every crack and crevice, man, where, you know, Black people are suffering in, you know. And I feel like our people need to see people amongst them practicing righteousness from whatever particular core ideology